Hey everyone, my name is Fiona. I am 34 years old. And not too long ago, I sold my architecture firm for $14 million. That should have been the absolute best day of my life. But that night, sitting across the kitchen table from my husband, he suggested we run a little experiment. He looked at me and said, "The thing that changed everything, tell them the deal fell through." I did. And what happened next is something I am still processing. Within 4 days, my mother listed my childhood bedroom on Airbnb for $89 a night. By day 7, my sister texted me to explicitly uninvite me from her upcoming wedding. My father just completely stopped calling. What happened on day 12, when my husband and I wired $50, 000 to each of them, is the reason I am telling you this story today. But honestly, what they chose to do with that money is the part that still keeps me up at night. Welcome back to the channel. If you have ever felt like you are giving your all to a family that only measures your worth by what you can do for them, settle in. Please make sure to hit that like button. Drop a comment as you listen and subscribe so you never miss a story. To really understand how a family system can completely collapse in just 11 days, you have to look at the blueprint. I am an architect. So I look at the world in terms of foundations, load-bearing walls, and structural integrity. My family, however, was built exactly like a corporate organizational chart. My mother, Diane, was the CEO. People often asked if she had a favorite daughter, but my mother didn't have favorites. She had departments. I was operations. I was the one who solved the problems, filed the paperwork, and managed the vendors. For 6 straight years, I filed my parents' property taxes. My mother literally didn't know the county assessor's address or the filing deadlines, but she knew my phone number and she knew how to text. Fee, can you handle this? I covered my father's golf club membership 3 years in a row when he forgot to renew it. That was $4, $200 a year. Totaling 12, low bay. He thanked me exactly once. He thanked the club manager twice. When my sister Kelsey's wedding venue ran into a massive zoning issue because the outdoor tent exceeded the lot's conditional use permit, I was the one who called in a favor. I used a contractor I had worked with for 6 years, and I got that permit approved in 9 days. Kelsey proudly told our mother that the venue worked it out. My name never even came up. Kelsey, on the other hand, was the public relations department. My mother called me when she needed something fixed, but she called Kelsey when she needed something posted, organized, or beautifully displayed. Kelsey managed my mother's social calendar, her community event RSVPs, and her holiday card lists. We were both on call for the CEO, just on different extensions. Kelsey is the one who shows up, smiles, photographs incredibly well, and always posts on time. This dynamic became glaringly obvious one evening. My husband, Garrett, who is a brilliant financial analyst, was sitting on our porch with me after our kids went to bed. He set his water glass down, looked at me like he was reading a balance sheet that just didn't add up, and asked a question that has haunted me ever since. When is the last time anyone in this family called you without needing something? I opened my mouth to answer, and then I closed it. Later that night, I went through my call log. Over 8 months, I had 43 calls from my mother. Every single one of them was a request or a logistics update. Can you look at dad's insurance claim? Can you call the roofer? Did you file the property tax extension? Not one call asking, how are you? Not one call saying, I was thinking about you. Every single interaction had a task attached. I checked Kelsey's pattern too. I casually asked her one day how often mom calls her just to talk. Kelsey actually laughed and said, Mom doesn't call to talk. She calls to delegate. But the heartbreaking difference was that Kelsey never noticed. She truly believed that managing mom's social calendar meant they were close. I used to think the same thing. I used to think that handling the property taxes meant I was needed, and I equated being needed with being loved. Garrett didn't lecture me. His one question did all the heavy lifting. Let me give you some background on my career. My firm is called Myers Design Group. We specialize in sustainable commercial architecture, converting warehouses, and designing LEED certified office complexes. I started it 8 years ago in a tiny one-room studio above a dry cleaner with just $11. 0 inches savings and a secondhand drafting table. 14 months ago, Harmon Kale, a massive national conglomerate, approached us. They wanted our sustainable design methodology, our client list, and our people. After 8 grueling months of due diligence and negotiations that literally made my teeth ache, we struck a deal. The most important part for me was the staff retention packages. Every single one of my 47 employees would keep their jobs. That mattered to me more than the final number, but the final number was life-changing. $14 million, all cash. The deal closed on a Tuesday afternoon. I signed the final document in my attorney Claudia's office with a cheap $4 pen. Garrett brought a $32 bottle of champagne, and my senior architect, Nora, cried in the doorway. I built this incredible company while simultaneously filing my parents' taxes, covering golf memberships, managing florists, and solving permit issues for people who never once asked how I was doing. I built a $14 million empire in the margins of a family that only ever noticed me when something was broken. I remember reaching for my phone to call my mother right after I signed. I wanted her to say she was proud of me, but I set the phone down because I already knew the script. She would say, "Congratulations." And in the exact same breath, she would say, "Now can you look at the insurance claim I've been waiting on?" She would fold my biggest life achievement into her task queue, and I would let her, because that was my function. That night at 9:30, sitting at my kitchen table with the champagne going flat and our kids, Mabel and Theo, fast asleep upstairs, I just felt bone tired. Garrett sat across from me. He has watched my family run on transactions for 9 years. He didn't say, "Let's test them." What he said was, "Before you tell them the good news, just don't for 1 week. See who asks." He wanted me to find out if they noticed me when I wasn't providing a service. I told him I wasn't going to outright lie, but I couldn't just do silence. So I compromised. I texted my mother, "Hey mom, the acquisition fell through. It's been a rough week." I gave her the perfect opening to be a mother, a chance to call me and say, "Tell me everything." How are you holding up? Her reply came exactly 14 minutes later. Oh no. Can you still handle Kelsey's caterer? She is stressed. My career had just collapsed, as far as she knew. And her very first response was checking if I could still deliver on an open task. She was running triage on her service queue, and I had just flagged myself as potentially offline. The system doesn't pause for pain, it just reroutes around it. That was day one. My mother never called back. Instead, she posted 3 stories on Instagram about Kelsey's dress fitting. My dad called briefly, asked you. Okay, kiddo, but before I could answer, I heard my mom calling him to dinner, and he hung up. Day 2. Kelsey sent me a massive 4-7 word text about her florist needing a final decision, with a tiny footnote at the end. Also, Mom told me about your work thing. That sucks. Anyway, the florist needs a final by Thursday. I opened my text thread with my mom and scrolled back 8 months. It read like a corporate service ticket, log, timestamps, task descriptions, expected delivery dates. I wasn't a daughter in that thread. I was an unlimited vendor with no invoice. And because I am deeply conditioned to fix things, I actually handled the florist perfectly. I picked the peonies and confirmed the low vases because I knew the venue's ceiling heights, and for the first time in my life, I hated myself for doing it. Day 4 was the turning point. My college friend Jess sent me a screenshot with the text, "Wait, is this your parents' house?" I opened it. It was an Airbnb listing. My childhood bedroom, $89 a night. The room still had the window seat I built with my father's tools when I was 16. I had sanded every single joint by hand. My mother's listing description read, "Charming daughter's old room. Recently refreshed." She had already redecorated in 4 days. My name plaque was gone from the door. And the window seat had a decorative pillow that literally said, "Guest." Garrett looked at it over my shoulder. He didn't say she was being cruel. He said something much more accurate and terrifying. "She isn't punishing you. She's reallocating the space. Your room was assigned to you, and you just got unassigned." It was just like a corporate conference room that was no longer booked. In her system, I was in idle capacity, and idle assets get redeployed to generate yield. By day 7, the structural damage was irreversible. Kelsey texted me at 9:47 inches the morning fee. Mom called me this morning. She said, "If you come to the wedding without a proper gift, it's going to be awkward for everyone." With everything going on with your firm, I think it might be better if you sat this one out. I'm sorry. I read it 4 times. This wasn't Kelsey being deliberately evil. This was Kelsey complying with management. My mother had run the calculation: a bankrupt Fiona equals no gift of appropriate value. No gift equals a social deficit at the wedding table. A social deficit reflects poorly on the family brand. The solution was simple: remove the liability. I had managed Kelsey's florist for 4 months, confirmed her caterer, solved her venue permit, and picked her centerpieces. I provided thousands of dollars in billable project management hours. But my mother's ledger doesn't track labor. It tracks cash and appearances. I was a line item that suddenly read 0. Garrett found me sitting on the bathroom floor. I wasn't crying. I was just doing the math. That evening, Garrett drew a literal org chart on printer paper. Diane Myers, CEO at the top. Left branch operations, Fiona. Right branch, public relations, Kelsey. Admin, rooting dad. I stared at it. It was completely clean. Every relationship I had with my family fit inside that corporate structure. My mother allocated bandwidth to whichever asset was currently appreciating. Kelsey's wedding gave her peak social capital. If Kelsey needed a permit fixed, Mom would route the request to me. We were all replaceable. On day 8, the curtain was completely pulled back. Nora, my senior architect, whose husband happens to be a distant cousin of my family, sent me a screenshot. It was from a group chat called Myers Family Updates. The chat had existed for 2 years, and I had never been invited to it. The messages were chilling. My mother wrote, Fiona's company went under. She probably can't contribute to the wedding fund anymore. Kelsey replied, so do I need to find another florist coordinator? She was handling mine. My dad chimed in, let's just give her some space. She'll figure it out. And then the message that stopped my heart. My mother wrote, I'm listing the spare room. No point keeping it empty if she isn't contributing anymore. Not contributing anymore. Those 3 words said everything. She didn't list the room out of hate. She listed it out of absolute efficiency. The moment my value dropped to 0, the system corrected itself. Kelsey was actively texting me to handle her florist while simultaneously discussing replacing me in the group chat. You don't cancel the vendor until the final deliverable is in hand. I immediately called Claudia, my attorney. I need you to set up a children's trust, and I need you to draft 3 wire transfers, 50 yuan, 000 each to my mother, my sister, and my father. Claudia was shocked. I told her, it's not a gift. It's a closing payment for 9 years of uncompensated services. And it comes with a receipt. Day 10 gave me the final piece of evidence. I went to my parents' house while they were out at a venue walkthrough to grab a box of my daughter's baby clothes from the attic. On my way out, I noticed a drawer open in my mother's antique secretary desk. A folder tab was visible. It read, Family Management. I pulled it out. Inside was a printed spreadsheet. My mother's handwriting was all over the margins. It had 4 columns. Name, what they gave, what they received, and balance under my row. The gave column listed tax filing, the venue permit, the florist coordination, and the insurance claim. My received column listed Thanksgiving dinners, an average $85 Christmas gifts. In the balance column, written in my mother's tight cursive, were the words over-delivering. Kelsey's row listed her RSVPs and Instagram posts under gave. Under received, it listed an $8. 000 wedding fund contribution. Her balance note, on track. My father's balance was positive because I paid for his golf club membership. My mother literally had a balance column for her own children. I was a line item with a performance rating. Kelsey was meeting her KPIs. I photographed the entire spreadsheet, put it back, and drove home shaking. When I showed Garrett, he was quiet for a long time. She doesn't have favorites. He said, she has a spreadsheet, and both of you are on it. I called Claudia back and adjusted the trusts for my kids. Mabel and Theo, $500 $0, each. My children would never be a line item. I also set up a $25 000 annual scholarship at my alma mater for architecture students, coming from families that treated them as resources. I named it the Balance Fund. My mother had a balance column, so I built one that tipped in the right direction by day 11. The rehearsal dinner was happening without me. I saw the Instagram photos. 68 guests. Kelsey in a champagne dress. I had managed the florist, the caterer, and the permit that made that very dinner possible. My labor was in every centerpiece on those tables, but my name wasn't in the room. I was never in the directory. I was in the vendor list. That night at 2 a.m. on day 12, I sat at my drafting desk. I opened the wire transfer app on my phone. 3 transfers. 50,000. Null, null, null. Each the memo line from the woman you wrote off. I didn't hit send in the dark. I am an architect. I don't sign off on demolitions in the middle of the night. At 6:15 inches the morning, wearing the gray blazer I wore when I signed the acquisition papers, I sat at my kitchen table. Send, send, send. The fallout was spectacular. At 7:22 a.m., my dad texted, Fiona, what is this? Kelsey texted at 7:41 a.m., demanding to know why I sent her $50. Ling, ling. By Oshim Chi A.M. My mom was calling, leaving voicemails that shifted from confusion to demanding an explanation, to crying, to threatening to come to my house. My sister sent a wall of texts accusing me of trying to humiliate her before her wedding. Not a single one of them considered the possibility that I was actually successful. In their org chart, operations doesn't generate revenue. Operations doesn't close $14 million deals. At 2:00 p.m., I sent a final group text. I wrote it like a project closeout memo. The acquisition of Myers Design Group closed 12 days ago for $14 million. The deal did not fall through. I told you it did to see what you would do. In 11 days, Mom listed my childhood room on Airbnb. Kelsey uninvited me from her wedding on Mom's instruction because I couldn't bring a gift of appropriate value. Dad stopped returning my calls. The $50, 000 each is real. Consider it severance. I am establishing permanent boundaries with this family. My attorney will be in touch. Do not contact Garrett. Do not come to our home. My mom called me at 7:00 p.m. from a different number, crying hysterically. Every sentence was about the impact on them. How could you do this to us? Right before Kelsey's wedding, not one word about what they did to me. I reminded her she listed my room in 4 days. She actually defended it, saying it was just practical. I hung up. Kelsey texted me saying I ruined her wedding week. She wasn't angry at me. She was angry that her service provider filed a complaint with management and disrupted the event. But here is the most devastating, eye-opening part. Day 13. My phone notified me of 3 bank transactions at 9:12 a.m. My mother deposited her $50, 000 check at 11:47 a.m. Kelsey deposited hers at 1:08 p.m. My father deposited his. All 3 of them cashed the checks within 18 hours, while simultaneously calling me manipulative, unstable, and cruel. They cashed every single dollar. They measured my worth in dollars, and then they proved it. And then on day 14, they went to Kelsey's wedding without me. The photos flooded my feed. 68 guests. The roses climbing the string lights. The centerpieces I chose. Even my goodbye was transactional to them. I made one final deposit into my mother's ledger, and they took the money and celebrated. By the second week, Claudia mailed the formal boundary frameworks via certified mail. She told me it wasn't about punishment, it was about structure. Every building needs walls. She said, I also mailed them a letter myself outlining every fact, date, screenshot, and a photograph of the spreadsheet. I told them the door was closed until they learned the difference between a daughter and a vendor. By month 2, the truth fully caught up with them. Nora ran into my mother and confirmed the $14 million sale was completely real. My mother immediately took to Facebook. First, she posted about her breaking heart when a child walks away. Then, after finding out I was extremely wealthy, she deleted it and posted how proud she was of her daughter's incredible business success. The pivot from grief to pride in under 60 minutes was staggering. Kelsey called me from her honeymoon. Her apology was essentially, I didn't know you were rich. Can we just go back? I realized then that if my bank account had actually been empty, Kelsey would have still happily eaten dinner over the centerpieces I arranged. Perfectly fine with writing me off. The system hadn't changed, just the balance sheet. My dad sent a handwritten letter. It was genuine. He admitted he just found it easier to route everything through my mom. I cried for the first time, but I wrote him back. Love without action is architecture without a foundation. Do the work. Start with therapy. To his credit, he actually booked a therapist and has respected my boundaries ever since. As for the rest of them, month 4 brought silence. My mother delisted the Airbnb room. She eventually returned the $50. 000 check 3 months later with a note saying she never needed my money. But she kept every dollar from the Airbnb guests. The family group chat was decommissioned. The $150 0 inches wire transfers was eventually returned or donated by them. But the money was never the point. The point was the receipt. The documentation of exactly what 11 days without value looked like in a family that ran on a ledger. Today, I am consulting for Harmon Kale 3 days a week and designing a community art center pro bono. The work feels completely different. It feels light. I spend the rest of my time with Garrett, Mabel, and Theo. We build cardboard cities and blanket forts. We hosted Mabel's 6th birthday in our backyard. 14 kids, a bouncy castle, Garrett at the grill, and our real friends laughing. This is the family I built. It runs on presence, not performance reviews. No ledgers, no KPIs. I used to deeply believe that family was a permanent structure. I thought they were load-bearing walls that you could never remove without the whole house collapsing. But the truth I learned is that some walls are not load-bearing at all. Some are just partitions put up by people who desperately need to control the floor plan. My mother ran her family exactly the way you run a corporation. And corporations lay people off when they stop being useful. So when I stopped being useful, I stopped being family. I took those walls down. And you know what? The house is still standing. Here is the life lesson I want to leave you with. Love shouldn't have a balance column. If you are exhausted, constantly over delivering just to earn your place at the table, take a hard look at the people holding the ledger. Are you their family? Or are you their vendor? Don't be afraid to issue your final invoice and close the account. Your life is waiting to be built on a real foundation. Thank you so much for being here and listening to my story. If this hit close to home or reminded you to check your own family dynamics, please share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe so we can keep building better things together. I will see you in the next one.